What was I talking about? Hi there. My name is Charles Ray Dawson. This is the Unnamed Real Estate Podcast, episode 211. I am the associate broker and residential sales manager of ProStar Realty, and I hope you guys are all having a great day. So, if you notice, the title of this week's episode is "What Was I Going to Say?" Because at least twice this week I've went, "Hey, that's a good topic. That's a good topic," and here we are, go time, little lights on, and I cannot remember anything of what those two topics were that I thought were pretty good. So I just texted out my crew that I was hanging with last night, and the response I got was the deal-making similarities with Trump's foreign policy, how the seller needs to think he wins, likes to be seen as a negotiator, and it's also a dumb idea to send a lowball offer. So obviously, at least somebody in my life listens to my rants when I get fired up. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about negotiations. Let's talk about ego. Let's talk about how the first person who gets emotional in a deal loses money. Yeah, there's a lot we can go on that. So I got an offer out, and it looks like it's dead. In fact, I just got off the phone with the agent on the other side about 30 minutes ago before I started recording. And house, nice house, but it's in a buyer's market. And what I mean by a buyer's market is that my buyer, we saw 12 houses that day. My buyer saw 3 of them that he liked. Right? We decided to go with this house for the simple reason is that his first house he liked noted in the comments that they were not leaving the hot tub. The seller was not leaving the hot tub. And my buyer said, okay, we'll go with the other one then. Because that hot tub was what pushed it over. Sometimes, when you're in a really buyer economy, it's you get overwhelmed by the choices. I mean, there's a lot of houses out there in certain neighborhoods that you get into. This particular neighborhood is about Northern and 51st Avenue, okay, which is definitely a buyer's market. And so we go in there and we get ready to send an offer over, and I take a look at the offer or the neighborhood and the property, and it's like, hey, this house has been on the market for 66 days. Average days on market on here for the ones that sell are 45. Average days on the market for everything else is about 73. Now, just remember how this works, right? Is that the houses that sell tend to sell at a lower days on market than the houses that sit there for a while. And there's various reasons behind that. So we also click on the history tab and realize that these guys have been dropping the price pretty aggressively, right? And so they're 60 days on the market. They dropped the price 3 times. Yeah, that's there's some blood in the water. So we go and we write an offer. My client initially comes with an offer that's really, really low. Okay, I advised against it. All right, I'm like, dude, and I worked the math out, and there's this weird little mental hook for people. Let me explain to you what I mean by this. You ever notice when you go to Walmart and things are always 99 cents, 98 cents, that kind of stuff? Right? And there's these weird little mental hooks that people hang feelings on. All right. And one of them is nice round numbers. All right. So I work the price point out and I look at what they paid for the place when they got it, And I'm like, okay, they're expecting to net about $100,000 off this deal. Okay, we're coming in substantially less. So, and then the lines, you can always say no. That's the worst that can happen. It's like, there's other things that can happen. Like you could burn any potential goodwill if the seller feels like you were trying to rip them off. All right. So seller counters back hard. All right. And we sit down. I said, okay, we tried it your way. Let's try this. And so we went there and tried another approach. All right. And we came back with a good counter offer, which was our best and highest. Best and highest is real estate terms for this is as good as it gets from us, and send it over. And it's just been nothing but a roundabout conversation with the other agent, because the other agent is your best friend in a transaction. And you really got to understand that, all right? You need to understand that when things start getting weird, or as I like to call it, fun, all right? When things start getting fun, it's that agent on the other side. He's the only, or she is the only other professional in the room, you and that person. And you two know how this works. And you have to coach and train your clients, your principals, all right, along the way. That's what they pay us the big bucks for here, people. So me and him are having conversations, and, it basically boils down to he's got a seller who really, really wants to be seen as making a good deal. Unfortunately, I have a buyer who also wants to be seen as making a good deal, but my buyer is being driven more by that famous emotion that I say is the number one emotion in real estate, fear, right? He's afraid of getting, overpaying. He's afraid of getting over his skis. He's afraid of having a house payment that he can't afford, even though the lenders will not loan him money if the lenders, the professionals, think he couldn't afford it. So we're having, these conversations. But this seller, he wants, it is my interpretation of the facts as transmitted to me through his agent, he wants to be seen as being a hard negotiator. Right, the best negotiator, right? Strong, tough, reading deals, doing deals, doing the best deals. All right, that's sort of the vibe I'm getting from the other side. And I'm like, this is our best and highest. All right, we came in with a price, you countered, we countered back, meeting you halfway. All right, so you're here, we're meeting right here in the middle, boys and girls. All right, and no, that's not good enough for him. He needs to see that little score closer to his side and farther away than our side. That is really hard to do with your fingers, by the way. Anyway, so, and I'm sitting here just like racking my brain going, what can I give him? What can we give the seller so the seller feels like he gets a win? All right. And so if I seem a little distracted, it's because I got 3 browser windows in the back of my head opening up, like just that very, what can we give him that make him seem like a win? All right. And unfortunately, we've already gone as far as we can. All right. Now we're starting talking ridiculous stuff. Okay. I'm pretty sure he's already come at his agent saying, hey, let's do it. How about you cut your commission? All right. I can sense the desperation from the other agent. Okay. He is really seriously attached to this deal. All right. Maybe he has Lexus syndrome. Who knows? All right. But I just don't think this deal is going to happen. But as this comes into negotiation and just watching the news, I realize a lot of people don't understand how to negotiate. Right? They don't understand the concepts behind it. A lot of them, and I will always go back to this, a lot of them is that they have a media-induced concept of what negotiating is. All right? That they watch, Suits, and they watch all these shows of people in Indian bazaars, and buying cheap jewelry and stuff, and like, this is the greatest. Oh, I should not do voices. Somebody's going to get upset at that, but this is the greatest vape pen on the planet. Look at this quality. Finest oils in here, greatest nicotine hit, a battery that will last forever, and it'll be yours for the price of 12 rubles. What? You're only going to give me 4 rubles? Look, do I look like I'm made out of money? Look at my children. My children are starving because you will not buy this great thing for 4 rubles. I am insulted. Get out of my shop. All right? There are people out there who really think that's the way negotiation is supposed to go. All right? And I'm getting, I run into these guys right and left. So I'm watching this thing go on about Ukraine. Well, let me pull this all back together. And people are freaking out because they believe the administration is giving up Ukraine to promote Russian interests. Right? Ukraine and Russia have 2 diverging needs and wants. Ukraine needs to survive. All right. Russia wants Ukraine not to survive. Russia does not necessarily need Ukraine not to survive. Right? Needs and wants, boys and girls. Right? And what Ukraine wants, and some could argue needs, is they would like to see the U.S. 3rd Cavalry Division parked in the middle of Kiev right now. Okay? And Ukraine to be a fully functioning member of NATO. And being able to get on that cool little NATO bandwagon where you join NATO and you only pay about $1.50 for your personal defense because Big Uncle Sam's going to cover you for the rest. All right, that's what they want, okay? So last week, or maybe it was a week before, our SecDef, I can't say his name, Hexdef, so I just call him SecDef. All right, Secretary of Defense, he says something along the lines of, yeah, Ukraine's not getting in NATO, and they're going to have to give up land. And everybody just loses their minds. Like, oh my God, he gave it away. He can't say that. You need to negotiate. You need to keep that bit hidden and stuff like that. And I had this flash of brilliance this morning, and I went, wait a minute. He wasn't saying that to Putin. He was saying that to Zelensky. And the reason why that popped in my head, because it had exactly to do with the conversation I was having with the agent on the other side. That item you think is on the table is not on the table. It's not even near the table. It's not even in the same room as the table. So quit talking about it. All right? And that message from the Secretary of Defense to the press corps, Ukraine is not going to be a member of NATO, all right, was not for Putin. That's a Putin want, but that's definitely a Zelensky wants. And he is telling Zelensky, it's not going to happen, dude. So quit trying to negotiate like that's on the table. All right, let's see where we can work within the pieces that we have on the board and the things that are acceptable to all parties. So that was my flash of insight this morning. And this comes into a lot of negotiation. If you are in a multi-party negotiation, and thanks to the court cases and everything else that we've had, instead of this being a nice little negotiation between buyer and seller, it is now between buyer and seller and both real estate agents. We are having a four-way negotiation here. And here at ProStar Realty, we don't do four-way negotiations. Our negotiation with you, the buyer or the seller, is right up front. This is our negotiation. We're going to help you buy a house for this, how much we get paid. We're going to sell your house, and this is how much we're going to get paid. We negotiate at that point, all right? And then we go help you negotiate with somebody else to buy or sell a house, all right? That's the service we provide. So ultimately, when you have a scenario here where an individual starts thinking everything's on the board, you have to tell the individual that's not on the table. And I've used this many, many times as an example, right? Negotiation is defining a Venn diagram, right? If I was smart, I actually would have worked up the graphics on this, thought about this on the right end. Did not get it before the light came on. So everybody knows what a Venn diagram is. It's the two circles, or sometimes three circles, usually used humorously on memes nowadays. But it's like people who like Star Wars, people who like Star Trek. There is an overlap of people who do like Star Wars and Star Trek, right? There's also some people who love Star Trek and hate Star Wars, all right? They're the ones on the outside of the Venn diagram. Negotiation is we're defining where we can purchase that house and under what conditions, and the seller's coming up with the conditions that they can sell that house under, all right? And we clearly define where we overlap. All right, and then we find out where we're going to go in there and overlap. And sometimes emotions and ego get involved. Sometimes agents who are like desperately trying to figure out where their mortgage payment or their Lexus lease payment is coming up start getting emotional about the transaction. All right, but ultimately, because we have agents have a fiduciary duty to our client, okay, and that is under some control. Okay, now they're with a new contract and everything like that, and that still needs to be hashed out. But ultimately, when it boils down to it, is sellers in these markets are going to need to learn that despite what the court's saying, despite what the new documents say, if you have a house that is priced at new first-time homebuyer levels, okay, first-time homebuyers are going to need concessions, all right? Especially veterans. VA loan, that's a completely different thing going on in this whole thing. But let me show you what the numbers, and this will actually really reinforce it to everybody, okay? February 19th, 2025. Okay, actives this week, 23,000. 495. That's up 423 from last week. This is the highest amount of listings we've had since I started doing this. All right, 2 days before St. Patrick's Day in 2021. I think it was 2021. It was the when COVID and everything was just kicking off and crazy, and they were locking everything down, and that's when I started tracking this thing. All right, we have the most houses on the market we've had since this podcast got started. All right. Our new listings are 2,574, up 5. We still have a lot of houses coming on. Our contracts are 2,335, down 74. Our closings were 1,353, and coming soon to an MLS near you is 819 more new listings. Our supply has hit 91.7. That is actually up 2 full points. All right. Our demand is at 78. It actually also trended up. It was like 77.8 or something like that, but not as much as the 2 full points over there on the supply. Right? That lowers the Cromford Report number to 85.1, putting us in a buyer's market overall. Now, this chart, this looks like a crime scene. All right? Look at all that red. That is everything where the market is moving towards the buyer's side. All right. Chandler's still leading the pack. They're at 148.8. Okay, so they're still in the seller's market. So's Tempe. So's Scottsdale. So's Gilbert. So's Paradise Valley. Don't care. All right. So's Fountain Hills, but Fountain Hills has dropped 21% month over month. All right. Phoenix is at 117.4, down 5. Other than that, this is all balanced markets. Our balanced markets right now are Mesa, Glendale, and Cave Creek. But I want you to look at Glendale. Glendale is down 12. All right. They have dropped 12%. They went from a seller's market. All right. And now they're balanced. And if they do another hit like that, they're going to be down into, wow, almost buyer territory. All right. Sucks to be Glendale right now. All right. Cave Creek. Okay. And then Avondale. Avondale comes into balance. Peoria comes into balance, but they're still dropping 11 and 8. Okay. Goodyear and Queen Creek, they're up a point apiece, right? But they're still in buyer's markets, right? Surprise, buyer's market and Buckeye and Maricopa. Okay. You can actually going to start saying, especially Maricopa, 16%. What the hell? All right. That is definitely going to be equity dragging. Okay. There are people who bought houses in Maricopa and Buckeye in the last 2 years who are probably upside down right now. All right. This is our market. What's going to save us out of this market? Well, interest rates. That seems to be our number one driver. Just doing the numbers, trying to come up with what we could counter back at on this deal was, just absolutely squeaking the numbers by. And there's been such fluctuation right now. They're really hard to track. All right. But I'm talking to my guy, and he was saying that proper financing and everything else, he said the word 5. Okay, he said the word 5 on a VA loan. Because remember, VA and FHA are usually lower than conventional, so they're still a really, really great deal. Unfortunately, most of our VA and FHA buyers don't have a lot of money. So if you're in that price point, you're accepting a VA and an FHA, well, the buyer's going to have some closing costs, and they're going to be looking at the seller to offset it, right? Especially down here in the seller's market side. All right. I mean, buyer's market side. All right. If you are Goodyear, Queen Creek, Surprise, Buckeye, Maricopa, don't think you're going to get away without it unless you're selling to an investor, and then you're just going to take the hit on your price point. All right. Chandler, you might be able to say no, especially depending on, how pricey that house is. All right. But Chandler's still, Tempe, same thing. Scottsdale. And the other thing is I find really interesting is that as much as the lower price points need the help on that, okay, the higher price points tend to be professionals, and they understand the importance of when you hire a contractor and that contractors need to get paid. So I've never had people complain about commissions or anything like that if they get paid salary. If they get paid hourly, they cannot figure it out. So anyways, that's where we're at. I am talking for 20 minutes here, and I think I pretty much covered all the big stuff I wanted to cover. There is a really great book. I do not have it, but it's called Never Split the Difference. All right. It's, can't remember the guy's right now, but just look up Never Split the Difference. All right. He's, also does a master class on it. And he is a former FBI negotiator who, teaches how to negotiate. All right. Now along his negotiation, there's a lot of little psychological manipulations that he does in there. Okay. So you might want to read the book just out of self-defense. All right. So when you realize somebody is like trying to manipulate you that way, but when you see somebody come in and they start hitting you with that little sales pitch, if you know what they're doing, at least for me, it flips a switch in my head and it's like, you have no power over me. All right. In fact, sometimes I'll just stop and go, oh, dude, that was really well done. I almost considered that for half a second, but no. All right. So I think if more people understood how to express their needs and what they want, and hey, this is as far as I can go and whatever, and the other side can do that, we'll be getting along a lot better across the board, especially internationally. So for everybody who's upset about SecDef, oh my God, I can't believe he said that out loud. You're not the audience. And remember, a lot of time when you hear other people say something, don't take it personal. You might not be the audience. All right. So if you are not an owner of a pool, don't think you're not my audience when I say watch children and pets around the water, because you might be visiting somebody, all right, who might have a pool. That's every adult's responsibility, all right? It's everybody who drives responsibility not to drive in anything flooded. Oh, look, one of my agents is calling me, and I'm going to tell her to work her circles, all right? And hopefully she's having a great weekend. I'll talk to you guys later.